This Shabbos is Shabbos Rosh Chodesh benching, Bevarchan HaChodesh Adar. However, since this year is a leap year, Shnasa Ibur, there are two Adars. So we're going to discuss Be'ez Hashem in today's Shir, when a person says Adar, which Adar does he mean? And this is relevant to all four Chalakim and Shulchan Aruch. It's Negeya and Eirachayim, Lagabi Rosh Chodesh benching. It's Negeya Even Ezer, when a person writes a get or a ksuba, and he writes in, how do you write it? And it's Negeya also in Yoredei and Hilchas Nedarim, a person makes a neder, which Adar is he referring to? If he says Adar Stam. So let's begin with the Gemara. It's a Mishnah in Nedarim, Daf Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. The Mishnah brings, if somebody makes a neder, and his neder is that he's not going to drink wine up until Adar. He's not going to drink wine up until Adar, which means in Adar he will drink. Which Adar is he referring to? He didn't say it was a leap year, it was a Shnasa Ibur, and he didn't say which Adar he's talking about. He said he makes a neder, he's not going to drink wine, wants to cut the alcohol up until Adar. Adar needs to be able to drink. So up until Adar, which Adar is he talking about? Is he talking about Adar Rishon or Adar Sheni? He didn't specify Rishon or Sheni. So the Mishnah says that Adar Rishon already is allowed to drink, which means that when a person says Adar Stam in a year like this year, Stam Adar means Adar Rishon. And therefore, when he made a neder, I'm not going to drink wine up until Adar. When it comes this week, Rosh Chodesh, Tuesday, Wednesday, he could start drinking wine, because when he said Adar means Adar Rishon. The Gemara says that it's a machlokes Tanoim. That means this mission is Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda holds that when a person says Adar Stam in a leap year, he means the first Adar. However, Shitas Rameir is that when a person says Adar, he means Adar Sheni. And therefore, when a person makes a neder that he's not going to drink wine up until Adar, Lefi Reb Yehuda, like we said, the Mishnah, already in the first Adar he could drink wine. But Lefi Rameir says that Stam Adar is Adar Sheni, and therefore he can't drink wine up until Adar Sheni. When he says Adar, he means Adar Sheni. So we have a machlokes Tanoim. When Adar in a leap year, which Adar are we talking about? Are we talking about the first Adar, or are we talking about the second Adar? And as we see, it's an afkamino lagabi a neder. How do we paskin? How do we paskin with this machlokes? The Tur in Eirachayim, Simin Tov Chav Ches. The Tur says he's speaking about writing shtaris, which, as we mentioned, writing shtaris on Negeya, any loans, documents, you have to write the date in it. It shouldn't be a shtar muktim. The same thing as a get, a ksuba, a person, you write in the date. You have to write the date in. So if a person writes in the date, in the ksuba, in the get, what does you write? Let's say for this coming month, Adar Rishon, Adar Sheni, what do you write? So the Tur says, V'koisvim b'shtaris ba'adar Rishon, Adar Stam. The first month, the first Adar, you just write Adar. You don't have to write Adar Rishon. Why? Because like we mentioned, Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that which Adar is the Adar is Adar Rishon. And therefore you could just write Adar in the Shtar, in the Ksuba, in the Get, in the Shtar Choiv. And however, Ubesheni, if we're holding already in the second Adar, over there you have to write Adar Hasheni, you have to write in not just Adar Hasheni. That's the Shitas Atur. However, the Shitas HaRambam, and the Rambam is in Hilchas Nedarim, at least how the Bach understands the Rambam learns that in neder, when a person makes a neder and he says Adar, he's talking about Adar Sheni. So therefore, Lefi the Rambam, if a person writes a shtar, in the first Adar he has to spell it out clearly, Adar Rishon. In the second Adar, he can leave it. You can just write Adar, and we'll understand that it's Adar Sheni. So we have a machlokes Tanoim. What Adar, which Adar is the Adar when you don't write Rishon v'Sheni? Means then you don't even have to write it. One of them, Rameh holds the second Adar, Rabbi Yehuda holds the first Adar. And now we have a machlokes Tanoim. Machlokes Rishonim. The Torah says, like Rabbi Yehuda, which means that when you write in a star, the first Adar, you don't have to spell it out, that it's the first Adar. And we saw the Rambam learns like Rabbi Meir, that you don't have to spell out the second Adar. So what's la halacha? The Machaber and Hilchas Gittin and Even Ezer Simin Kuf Chavav Siv Zayin. The Machaber says you have to write both. Write both means that if it's an Adar Rishon, you write Adar Rishon, and Adar Sheni, you have to write Adar Sheni. We have a Machlekes Tanoim, we have a Machlekes Rishonim, Tur and Rambam. So the Machaber says you got to do both. You have to, like the Bach explains, L'chumra, you have to do both. Im Hashana Muberes, like this year, it's a leap year. Yichtayv ba'Adar Rishon liyerach Adar Rishon, the first month. Ubesheni, and in the second month you have to write Yichtayv liyerach Adar Hasheni. In other words, you have to write in the first month the Rishon, and the second month Sheni. However, that's the Machaber. The Ramah argues, and the Ramah says that if a person in a get did not write Adar Rishon, it's a kosher get. Shtar choy v'ksuba, it's a kosher shtar. The Ramah argues, the Ramah paskins basically like Rabbi Yehuda, that the first month is the Adar. The Ramah says, Im kosav ba'Adar harishon Adar stam kosher. So even though the Machaber says, I have a Machlekes Rishonim, Tur and Rambam, and therefore you have to be machma like both, the Ramah says if you didn't write by Adar Rishon, you didn't spell it out, it's good, it's a kosher get. This is just a question on a side note. The Ramah over here in Hilchas Gerushin is mashma that it's only b'diavad. The Ramah says v'im kosav ba'Adar harishon, it's okay, stam, which means b'diavad, which is a chiddush, because b'diavad, the get is a good get. We're talking about an eishes ish. It's a chiddush, but the Ramah says b'diavad, it's okay to go with Adar Rishon. Stam means you don't write Adar Rishon, it's okay. The Ramah in Hilchas Rosh Chodesh, when he brings this din, Keshema Abram Hashana, when you a leap year, says the Ramah straight up, Kaisvim ba'Adar Rishon Adar Stam. The Ramah says l'tchatchila, he's telling you how to write a star, you just write Adar Stam. And in the second Adar, you write Adar Sheni. But anyways, we have the Machaber holds you have to do both. The Ramah says you only have to spell it out by Adar Sheni. Adar Rishon, you don't have to write out Adar Rishon, which means it goes like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Chalkas Machaike comes to explain, how does the Ramah say that we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, that by Adar Rishon you don't have to spell it out? Tells the Chalkas Machaike two terutzim. Firstly, he brings a very big list of Rishonim that go like the tour, that Adar Stam is Adar Rishon, a whole list of Rishonim. Sefer HaTrumas, the Aguda, the Rosh, the Ran, Rabbeinu Yeruchim, the Mordcha, the Raavad, all go like the Shita of the tour as well, go with the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda, that the first Adar, you don't have to spell it out. Secondly, he wants to argue in the Rambam that the Rambam also agrees with Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. So what we have over here so far is a Machlekes Tanoi, Machlekes Rishonim, Lahalach, it's also Machlekes. The Machaber says you have to be machma like both, and in Adar Rishon spell it Adar Rishon, and Adar Sheni you have to spell it Adar Sheni. Very good. Morty's asking, what's with Purim, which we know Purim is in the second Adar. We're going to get to that shortly to speak about more halachas. But first we're speaking about Shtaris and also Nidarim. And we'll see right away now also it's Negeya this Shabbos as well. So we have a Machlekes Machaber Ramah. Machaber says you have to clearly specify both. And the Ramah says, no, in Rishon you don't have to specify. What's the Lamaisa? This is also Lamaisa, what we spoke till now, but Lamaisa for everybody. Tomorrow, Shabbos Mavarchim. Yeah. Before Musaf, Mavarchim, Achodesh, Rosh Chodesh benching. So Rosh Chodesh, that's very clear, is Tuesday and Wednesday. But what do you say? Rosh Chodesh Adar, Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon? What do you say?
No, they say Rishon.
You say Rishon. They say,
Yeah, Matar Aleph, same thing.
Yeah, l'chayra, if you say Rishon, I wouldn't think there's enough gebida saying Aleph or Adar Rishon. But do you have to say it? What does the Olam say? You said that's what they say, Rishon. It should really depend on the machlokes we just said now. Lefi the machaber, you have to specify by both. So here as well, you have to specify by both. And tomorrow you have to say Adar Rishon.
What if you said Kislev? I mean, the whole thing.
It doesn't mean you're not Yotze, but we're talking about you want to do it properly. You want to do it the right way. It has happened in a shul they made a mistake. We're not talking about the Rosh Chodesh comes regardless, but if you want to do it the right way, Kedina.
I think by Birkas HaKodesh, it's a different nakuda to it. In fact, that if some people don't know that it's a leap year, and they come in and this here was Chodesh Adar, they're going to think Purim in 2 weeks.
Okay, Yitzi has a good point. He's saying that maybe you say Adar Rishon.
Lots of orders now, that's okay, but they're not going to.
They're not going to realize. Yeah, that could be that you say Adar Rishon means Lefi the Ramah that the Adar Stam is Adar Rishon. So Lefi the Ramah, you don't have to spell out Adar Rishon. Yitzi wants to say that even Lefi the Ramah could be over here. We say Adar Rishon. But the truth in the matter is, good point. The truth in the matter is that the Mishnah Berurah brings this machlokes in Hilchos Rosh Chodesh, Siman Tav Chav Zayin. The tour that we mentioned before brings it in Tav Chav Ches. The Ramah is on Tav Chav Zayin, and the Mishnah Berurah says, "V'hu adin." Sifkat and Gimel, "V'hu adin k'shemavarchen achodesh bebeis hakneses." Just like the Ramah says that when you write Shtaris, the first month you don't have to write Adar Rishon, you just write Adar. Says the Mishnah Berurah, feed the Ramah. The same thing is also Kiddush HaChodesh. You just write, you just say Adar. You don't have to say Adar Rishon. Lamaisa, the Mishnah Berurah brings some the Achronim, which is the Bach and the Taz, the Magen Avram, El Yerabah, all say like we do to say Adar Rishon. By the first one you say Adar Rishon and the second Adar Sheni. Yes, Alex.
How can it be practically? Somebody looks at the star, maybe they forgot to write which one before. Maybe it was first, maybe they forgot to write which one, so we don't know what the date is. It's a serious concern, right? You take whatever, 5 years ago, it doesn't say anything. You don't know. It was Aleph, or maybe they forgot to write which one. So how do you deal with it?
So let's even go something more chamer. Let's say a get, but even a star chayv. So any time that there's an error on the star, there is no reason to assume that it was done wrong. We don't know, but it just says Adar, and we say, hey, 5 years ago. I don't know what was 5 years ago, but that year was a leap year, and how come it doesn't say which Adar it is? So you're asking, let's start being chayshish, maybe. If we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that Stam Adar is Adar Rishon, so therefore when the Ksuba was written, when the get was written, even if they're doing it properly, they just wrote Adar. There is no reason to spell out clearly Adar Rishon, because when you write Adar, it means Adar Rishon.
Basically, it's like they forgot. There's no such concern. They do it right. They don't have to.
No, I think the concern would be the other way. In a Shtar Chayv, when is the loan due? If you wrote Stam
Can I ask you to close that curtain?
If you borrowed something 10 years ago and he writes that's going to be due in 10 years in Adar, and now there's 2 Adars this year, says it's due in the first Adar, it's due in the second Adar.
I think it would depend the same thing. You're pointing out what happens not when it was written. You write in a star that it's due by Adar. The question is which Adar.
Right. So that's where what you just said. That's where the question would come up more. That's where the question would come up.
But they're the same thing. Lefi the Ramah, that the Ramah says that you go with Stam Adar's Adar. So if you don't spell out which Adar, it's due the first Adar. Yeah.
The other ones that were cool anyway. A lot of those stories have a day of the week.
Thank you, Menachem Shkaya.
Too bad the day of the weekend. So you match up with the day of the weekend.
Yeah, but if there's a mistake in certain cases, even if you could figure it out, you write the parsha, but you have these dinim how it has to be written properly.
But I don't understand. How can you have a sheni without a rishon? If you don't count the rishon, then how do you have a sheni?
You're asking good, Yitzi. You're saying it's only 2 because there's 1. But the idea really is when a person says Adar, you could call it Rishon. We know these two Adars, and if you're going to ask somebody which Adar is your son getting married, he'll say either the first or the second. He's not going to say Adar because you know that's Stam Adar. You're right. We refer to the first Adar as number one and the second Adar number two. However, one of the Adars obviously is the Adar and the other one is the addition. And therefore, whatever one is the Adar, if you write it plain without saying Rishon V'Sheni, we know which one you're referring to. But you're right, Yitzi. This Adar is the first Adar. No one's going to say, no, this is not the first Adar. This is Adar. This is the first Adar. That's the second Adar. But the question is, you write in a star, a neder, Rosh Chodesh, mention what you have to say.
When they were doing Kiddush Chodesh, Adar Aleph, you didn't know that there was going to be the Adar Shin until the end of the
So we're going to leave that on the side for now, because even the Gemara speaks about it. Morty brought up a good point. What's if you didn't know? And the Gemara actually says, because you brought up, I'll say it very bekitzer, that even Rameir agrees that if you didn't know that there was another Adar, then obviously the first Adar is the Stam Adar, not the second Adar. But in the case that you know, these are Machloikis, which is the Adar Bestama. Just one halacha, if we're speaking about Rosh Chodesh benching, which is Kedai to note, so Lamaisa, the Mishabura says you should say Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni. Right? Adar Rishon, Adar Sheni means, even though the Ramah says that Stam Adar is Adar Rishon, say Sheni. The Machaber, when he says to write in the star Yichtov Ba'adar Rishon, he says Adar Rishon. The Chalkas Machaykik says, just like by Adar it says Sheni, it's Ha-Sheni, says the Chalkas Machaykik, you should write Adar Ha-Rishon. Ha-Rishon. Just like you find the Gemara, the Mishnah, it's Adar Ha-Rishon, and therefore the Shara Ephraim Taka says that in Rosh Chodesh benching as well, besides saying Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon, you should say Adar HaRishon. Adar HaRishon. So we have over here so far Machlekes Tanoim. Which one Adar are we referring to when you say it's Stam? Machlekes Rishonim. And Machlekes Lahalacha also, which at least seemingly from the Ramah goes that the first Rishon, the first Adar means the first Adar. If a person says Adar, he's referring to the first Adar.
But isn't it grammatically, if you say Adar Hasheni means compared to it's with the basis that there's a first Adar before. If you say Adar Harishon, it means the very first Adar that ever existed, as opposed to Rishon meaning the first one this year. No? No?
Unfortunately, I'm not. I don't know. In the diktuk, you're asking Lamaisa. I could just say over the Chalkas Machaykik says you should say it. He brings based on a Mishnah. The Mishnah.
Like you say, Adam Harishon.
The re-mints Adar Rishon.
Say Adam Harishon.
Someone brings, I think that it's a Mishnah.
Adam Harishon means the very first man that ever existed. If you say Adam Rishon, it means in a certain context it's the first man, but it's not the first one that ever existed. No.
Okay, but who's the? Nobody's labeled as a second man.
Yeah, Yom Rishon.
The question, however, is here. The question, however, is that there are many dinim. These the halach and hilchas brachas simenun hey. Even though we mentioned up until now, at least Shitas Haramah, or even the Machaber goes L'chomer, but the Ramah says that Stam Adar is the first Adar. The Ramah in Hilchas Bracha says Hagah, that if a boy was born on an Adar, not a leap year, Shana Pshuta, and then his Bar Mitzvah is on a leap year. My son is turning 10 now on Adar. He was born 10 years ago on a Shana Pshuta. And in 3 years from now, it's going to be a leap year. Which year is he Bar Mitzvah?
Month.
What month? Very good. Yeah, what month?
13th year.
Yeah. What month? So the truth is that it's a very big tumult. And hopefully there's going to be part part to a shir, which we're going to go into this and other dinim. But the Ramah says in Hilchas Brachas, Umisha Noilid Ba'adar, the Nasa Bar Mitzvah V'Shnasa Ibor, he becomes Bar Mitzvah on a leap year, Einoi Nasa Bar Mitzvah at Adar Hasheni. You go with the second Adar. So that's already different shitas. These are very mechodesh the shitas Magen Avram. Some are machmer from Rishon. I don't want to go in a lot into the dinim. Maybe, hopefully there'll be a shir about that, just this itself. But Lamaisa, you see that the bar mitzvah goes with the second month. The same is also for Yartzeit. A person that fasts on the Yartzeit of his parent, or even maybe for a matter of fact of Kaddish, in Hilchas Tainis, the Shulchan Aruch says, and this is in Siman Tovkov Samach Siv Zayin, Lashon HaShulchan Aruch, Yishe'eru Yoim Shemes Ava V'imoy Ba'adar. Person's parent passed away in Adar, and now, like this year, it's a leap year. V'Hashana Muberes, says the Machaber, Yis'ane B'Sheni. So what's the second one?
The first year, though.
First year with the Kfura, there's a lot of dinim over here also. But at least let's get the basic that the Ramah says by Bar Mitzvah you go with the second. Over here the Machaber says you go with the first. Happens to be these Machlekes Machaber Ramah. But what's going on? Before we said that the Ramah says clearly you go with the first Adar, and here you go with the second Adar. What'd say? Yes and no. I'll explain to you. By Bar Mitzvah, these are Ramah that says you go with the second month. By Yartzeit, these are Machlekes Machaber Ramah. Machaber says you go with the second, Ramah goes with the first. I don't want to go into the Prati Dinim in this shir, in those Bar Mitzvah and Yartzeit, but at least the point is a very clear question, regardless if you go into all the Machlekes in. Everything we spoke up until now was that the Ramah says you go with the first Adar. Machaber says to be machmer. Then when it comes to bar mitzvah, when it comes to Yartzeit, over there we go with the second Adar. What's going on?
First thing is what people mean. What people mean and what people understand. Not what we see is the second one. What we see is the right person.
Oh, very good. What Eli is saying is mavur in the Goyin. The Sant is arichas in the Goyin tak and hilchas tainis, and it's also in Chuvas Chasam Soifa Arachaim Siman Kuf Samach Gimel. Kuf Samach Gimel, yeah. That there's a difference between everything we spoke, the beginning of the Shir, B'negei Loshem B'nei Adam, the Machlekes or Meir of Yehuda, when a person makes a neder and he's talking about an Adar. Which Adar are you talking about? Well, let's just understand what a person means when he says Adar. Does a person mean the first Adar or does a person mean the second Adar? Loshem B'nei Adam, and therefore in a star also, when you write the date, we're referring to the date what a person refers to, what a person means. And the same thing is Kiddush HaChaydish also. What does a person call Adar? What does a person call? And therefore, that's the Machlekes or a Meir or a Yehuda. When a person says Adar, which Adar is he referring to? However, dinim that are noigeya to Adar, bar mitzvah, a person's bar mitzvah, and Adar, person has Yartzeit, saying Kaddish. For that, the pashtus is, I'm saying the pashtus, that's what we showed, but for that, you go with the second Adar. V'haraya mikra Megillah, the Mishnah that Vav at base ain't bein Adar Rishon Adar Sheni, but the Mishnah says that Vav, mikra Megillah matanas al yodim, you give the second Adar. So to come out clearly, in halachas, the second Adar has the halachas of Adar. But when a person speaks about Adar, over there we have a machlokes, which the Ramah says a person means the first Adar.
Many people hold both months.
Lamaisa, like I mentioned before, we'll leave the Yartzeit, the Bar Mitzvah. There's a lot of shitas about it, and that'll be discussed. What'd say?
You have a month to prepare. First year, another year.
To be Messiah with something along the lines that we spoke about now, which is the Adar, there's another point to bring up. The Gemara says, it's a Gemara in Tainis, Amr Yehuda Breder of Shmuel Bar Shilas Meshmei de Rav, just like the Mishnah says, Kashem Shenichnes Av Mematem Besimcha, You memayit besimcha, you turn the flame down, you have to be a little less, you have to be less besimcha. Kach mishenichnas Adar, when Adar comes in, is marvin besimcha. That's the dim, mishenichnas Adar, marvin besimcha. From which Adar is marvin besimcha?
First.
I would also like to say, to be marvin besimcha, even the first. We even have a raya. I see the newsletter already has the cover. This week is on the first one.
The mazel would probably be in the second, because I'm saying the way everything is lined
It's
up.
interesting what you're pointing out about the mazel. It's on a sideline. It seems from, I think, the Chassam Sofer that the second Adar doesn't have a mazel. Just if you pointed about that. So which Adar? Mishenichnas Adar Mar B'Simcha. Which Adar? Says the Yavitz in Shilas Yavitz. In Shilas Yavitz, Chelik Beis Shaila Peches, a small piece. And he says like this: if you take a look in Rashi on that Gemara, Rashi says, why Mishenichnas Adar Marvin B'Simcha? Why? Says Rashi, because of the Nisim that happened, Purim and Pesach. The Lashon Rashi. Very good. Yemei Nisim Hoyu Yisrael Purim u'Pesach. So he explains, why is Rashi have to say Purim u'Pesach? It's not enough, the Nisim of Purim. So he says, because really, why only Mishenichnas Adar Marvin B'Simcha because of the Nes of Purim, and why not Mishenichnas Nisim Marvin B'Simcha because of the Nes of Pesach, Mishenichnas Kislev Marvin B'Simcha because of the Nes of Chanukah? Says the Yavitz that the reason why Adar Marvin B'Simcha, because these coming to Adar, these are double dosage, 2 months of Nisim, and therefore Marvin B'Simcha and Adar. That's why. That's what Rashi says, Marvin B'Simcha, because of the Nisim of Purim and Pesach, because the Adar, the Nes, when you come into Adar, you have lined up 2 months of Nisim. The Mela says the Yavitz, only Adar Sheni. Why only Adar Sheni? Because only in Adar Sheni do you have lined up 2 months of Nisim. Adar Sheni is Purim, and Nisan is because of Pesach. That's the Shitas HaYavitz. However, I'm not going to let the Olam down. Everybody said that it should be from Adar Rishon also. I'm sorry, before going to the other Shita, Rav Shlomo Zalman, Shevet HaLevi, go taka that it's from Adar Sheni. Interesting to note, this is a Bnei Yissaschar, and he brings Kvar Mavur and the Kadmoinim, and it's a Yerushalmi, that the Goyrel that happened, that Haman made, that year was a Shnasa Iber, was a leap year, and the Purim, and it happened on Adar Sheni. The whole nest that we're celebrating of Purim actually happened on Adar Sheni. So that's one side. The Shilas Yavitz, just mamash a minute. I want to try to finish on time. The Shilas Yavitz says that we go with that only Adar Sheni is Marvin B'Simcha. Me'idach, the Chassam Sofer and a Tshuva, and this is not in the Tshuva, but actually the heading of the Tshuva. The Chassam Sofer, when he heads the Tshuva, he writes the date of the Tshuva. The Chassam Sofer writes, Aleph, the Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon, Shemarvin B'Y B'Simcha. The first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon, Shemarvin B'Y B'Simcha. Which would seem that the Chassam Sofer held that even the first month of Adar is Marvin B'Simcha. In Kuntras Oitzrus HaSofer brings that Rav Vosner told this to the Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish said, I wrote down the Lashon, Fin Tarichim and Tshuvas Chassam Sofer Kemen Lernen, which means you could learn from the Chassam Sofer that wrote Marvin B'Simcha even in the first Adar. So you see that even Mishnechnas Adar is even in the first Adar. So just to sum up what we spoke today, just a minute, what we spoke today was the Lashon B'nei Adam, what people call Adar. We saw Machlekes Tanoi, Machlekes Rishonim. The Ramah seems to say that we go that Lashon B'nei Adam Stam Adar is Adar Rishon, and then we said that in Dinim the real Adar is Adar Sheni, and then we said a side note, B'Shenechnas Adar, these are Shaila and the Achroinim. When is it Marvin B'Simcha? Have a wonderful Shabbos.